No date is perfect. But January 1, I think, was signified by the government. In the 2012 budget, there was no provision for fuel subsidy.
Malam Sanusi, Lamido Sanusi, 2 years ago, he caused an uproar when he said 27% of our recurrent expenditure, about that number, was allocated to federal legislators. He won a lot of respect when he said that. He went before the assembly, and he also won some praise by confronting them with that. That ammunition is what has been used by the protesters to say, cut the cost of government, do not cut subsidy. People talk of sacrifice. How do you balance these 2 points? The lawmakers making so much money, the people having to pay.
You see, what I'm told by many of the informed protesters is that they don't even want to negotiate the price of petrol. They feel insulted by that level of discourse. What they are saying is that they want deregulation, they want to eliminate abuse so that there's no cabal ever again, and so on and so forth. But they're saying what they want to negotiate is show me that there will be improved good governance. Let us discuss your belt tightening. Is it good enough? And they are saying let us discuss it at LGA level, at the state government level, and at federal level. In any case, who does not know that in many states, the governors even control the LGAs more or less? In most states, they're from the same party. It is rare to find an LGA chairman from a different party as state governor. So even the governor cannot even hide his head in the sand. My governor in River State, I call him and say, listen, this thing is, you are the governor. I don't care about my LGA chairman. You help me to call him to order. And he accepts and understands that a governor will be held accountable in the state by the electorate to ensure that both himself and the LGAs under him behave well. No, I'm saying that there are two different things happening simultaneously. NLC is still, with all due respects, looking at things in a myopic fashion. In any case, even on the issue of petrol price, many people have been bombarded by text, emails, and everything, people telling me that, listen, we accept that it does not make sense to sell petrol at 65 naira to a very rich man. People have told me that, yes, they heard me say that perhaps we should issue fuel vouchers at state government level to the poor. And they are saying, aren't these the kind of things we should be discussing? Is NLC listening to such things? Or are they still demanding that in 2012, as was done by the last 30 years or so, by various heads of state, some of them who had ulterior motives? Is NLC saying that they've not heard that message yet from the protesters? Then again, they almost insult the protesters. So my appeal is that even NLC itself should move the game forward in 2012. I'm sure that if Adams Oshomole was today the head of NLC, he would be saying, can we discuss ways of ensuring that the subsidy only goes to the poor and not to the rich? The game has moved on. Some of these people are quoting speeches that people like Adams would have abandoned of 20 years ago. I propose something. Issue fuel vouchers to the poor at state government level. I think even NLC must listen to the protesters. Some of them have told me, listen, they accept that the rich should not enjoy subsidized petrol. They want to sit down and devise schemes that if anybody is to enjoy it at all, it should be at state government level. State government has the data. Let me just give examples. I'm not saying it's a complete plan, but if any state government wants to work out a plan, it's very easy. In a state, you must know the taxpayers. If you're a resident in the state and you earn income, you should be paying your taxes. A state governor can decide, therefore, if I'm going to subsidize fuel, I will subsidize those who have been paying taxes in my state. Show me that you've paid tax in my state, and I'll give you a fuel subsidy. He can decide again that, hang on a second, but this is for the poor only. So therefore, if you earn above 5 million naira a year, I'm not going to give you any fuel voucher. Those of you who paid your taxes and you earn below 5 million a year, or 4, or 3, or 2, or 1, you are the poor. Unto you will I give fuel vouchers. That takes care of the problem. That way, even if the TUC chairman in his own state, it turns out he has huge income, he will not enjoy the subsidy. He should be fighting for the poor only, not for himself. Do you agree? Exactly. Also, the next question people ask me, How about the person who earned income didn't pay any tax? I asked them a question, hang on a second. The person who earns income and did not pay any tax has broken the law. If he never paid any tax at all, and he shows up to ask for a subsidy, and he confirms that he has income, then you should arrest him. Because in other countries, you go to jail for not paying your taxes. That person has no moral right to say he wants to take part in a subsidy, which is being dispensed to those who complied with the law. We can discuss it in various elements. We can also talk about mass transit. In Rivers State, I heard on television on AIT that Governor Mechi has sat down with transporters. They've worked out fares. He's supporting them to ensure that they will hold fares down to agreed levels, so that the big buses using diesel, they won't increase their fares. The smaller ones, he's arranged everything with them. The result is that the poorer people who are using mass transit, he's giving them fares that they can live with. And from the feedback I got even up to this morning, the whole place is calm. People are going about their business more and more every day. The point I'm making is that, isn't this the task of every state governor to come out and dialogue with his people? Why doesn't NLC want to dialogue with every state governor in the same way as those in Rivers State did? See, if they're not careful, some people start wondering whether it's political on their side. Because if they were concerned about the masses, they should know, and they know, that of the 1.1 trillion, 600 billion of it, bigger than the federal government's share, will go into the hands of governors and LGAs. So they should want to dialogue with all three tiers of government. Not completely disregard even their own state governor in some cases, and insist that they only have business with the federal. In any case, sorry, we also talk about fiscal federalism and all that talk. What kind of fiscal federalism are we discussing? Is it the one where the government is going to come and decide, federal government, how much fuel I consume in my state and at what price? Or is it that we should devolve powers and give resources to the states and the LGAs? Let each of them run their own ship, their own way. And let the governor who wants subsidy do one in his own state. Let federal government take care of things like defense, defense, army, security, and so on and so forth, and other major items, major infrastructure, and so on. So let's be very careful, because we talk about things like fiscal federalism, and as soon as we begin to apply them, everybody says, no, we want federal government itself to become some sort of Father Christmas. Second thing, I think we made some mistakes before, right from the military era, which we have to correct. Minimum wage, national minimum wage. I don't understand how somebody can set a national minimum wage at the same level in Lagos and in Kebbi State or in Borno State. If you say 18,000 in Lagos and the government here complies, and the government complies in Borno as well, then the employee in Borno who got 18,000 with a much lower cost of living is far ahead of the person in Lagos State who earned 18,000. I personally believe that such things should be set on a state basis. The cost of living in Lagos is far removed from the cost of living in Bauchi, from the cost of living in Abia. So let's get real. Now, it is the job of the National Assembly to wake up and begin to modify all such laws. How about even this talk about PPRA? People are telling me, look, we want full deregulation. We don't even want to hear things like PPRA again. All this attempt to talk about uniform price of petrol is a scam, because somebody gets paid to equalize the price and he doesn't equalize it. So the point, I'm all for that. Now, these are the points that labor or protesters should put on the table. And also, people should be very careful, because, especially the protesters, at least labor, we know who they are. They know themselves. For the protesters, they'll be very careful, because you may have a genuine case. You want to be heard. I suspect that they have already been heard at the federal level. They will soon be heard by all state governors, and so on and so on. I think they should be very careful, because the protests are being hijacked. That is why the governors of Anambra, Edo, and Rivers, and I believe also Kaduna, hurriedly doused the protests. They're being hijacked by three groups of people. Being hijacked by hoodlums and miscreants, and that is dangerous. They are being hijacked by people who lost elections, people who went out there to test their mind, to look for votes and lost badly. And they're also being hijacked by a third group, people who have a grouse with the government. I think, and it's sad if people who have genuine, innocent demands as protesters, who have been heard, allow the whole protest to come to naught because it gets hijacked by either miscreants, opportunists, some even a fourth group. Some people join the protest just so they can appear in a photograph or something in the media. So they go hunting, for the attention of the media. People have different agendas. So I think the real protesters should say, listen, I'm on the economic team of the federal government. I have heard their message. The message is loud and clear. We want more belt tightening. We want to fight corruption effectively. And we are saying we even accept, for some, removal of subsidies from the rich. In fact, almost all accept that don't subsidize the rich. Some say if you must subsidize the poor alone. Define a mechanism that excludes the rich. I've heard that message. But unfortunately, if you stop me from even going for a meeting of the economic team, even if one is called, I can't even properly convey the message. So if your intention was to get the message of your protest out, and it's been heard loud and clear, at least at the federal level, then allow us to try and talk to and dialogue. And the dialogue shouldn't be about petrol price only. It should be about belt tightening and so on. No date is perfect. But January 1, I think, was signified by the government. In the 2012 budget, there was no provision for fuel subsidy.
The belt tightening issue. I remember Labaran Marco, the Minister of Information, had said that there will be no pain felt during this transition period. A different message from what a number of ministers, people have different opinions. Some said, yes, there will be pain. I remember Sanusi, the central bank governor, saying that he wasn't sure if the inflation... Listen. Don't ask me what Labaran Marco said, because I didn't hear him say it. Good. I'm just saying that.
Yes, I know there are different voices.
Different voices. But we have come to the period where there is pain felt by the people. You think people aren't very well prepared for this issue, so now they're taking out their anger on the streets because the cost of living was already high in the country. Now they're faced with a higher income, a higher cost of living. So now they cannot confront this thing.
Calling for subsidies for the poor.
What about the timing? This is happening after the protests have started.
Sorry, please. Okay. When you finish protesting, what do you want the government to do? Is it not better? Haven't you seen overseas where people involved in protest, they call it a strike. They say it's a 2-day strike, after which they will negotiate with you, and so on. In any case, NLC has to be very careful on their own case because Nigerians cannot stay out of work for very long. If you accept that they are poor people, I already have reports from all over the country in some states where the markets today are almost full. People have gone back to work in some areas. If you're not careful, it is a bad gamble for you to embark upon an indefinite strike and slowly everybody goes back to work. By the time you're the only person, by the time it's only the NSC leadership left, or 1 or 2 people, you know what's going to happen. You're better off if you on your own say, Nigerians, I've heard your protest and I call up the strike. Then they will even hail you and I'll go and negotiate. If you overdo this indefinite strike business, and one day you find that it's only you left on strike, you're actually weaker. That is my message to the NSC leadership. Please let me add, and also TUC. There are some people in the labor movement I respect and respect greatly. I don't want to start calling names here. I've read what some of them have written. I've read some of them say, that this fuel subsidy was being used, some people were favored, friends of the government, were the ones enjoying it or importing the fuel, the thing that was corruption and so on and so forth. I've heard your message. But let me ask you a question. Isn't that all the more reason why the president must stop it? And if he has stopped it, isn't that all the more reason why you should come and dialogue with him on what else he should do? Is this about ensuring that you personally, as the head of TUC, probably you are wealthy, that you must buy petrol to 65? Or is this about the poor? So that I'm saying that if I was the president, if I was the governor, Governor Mechi in Rivers State had a dialogue, only with the poor really. But in terms of transport fares and so on, he didn't talk about transport airfares from Port Harcourt. He was talking about mass transit fares. That's a dialogue with the poor. So my advice to TUC NLC is that if you overdo this thing about fighting to lower petrol price for me, I didn't beg you for that. Why don't you cleverly start asking questions about how we can separate the rich from the poor and help the poor alone? Then the poor will even back you better.